Hey guys, just checking live on Facebook. Oh, Facebook, please don't. Thank goodness for that. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. Top of the morning to you, as the Irish would say, or whatever. Top of the morning to you. Can't do an Irish accent, sorry. But anyway, welcome to the fourth and final lot of. Nowadays, you never know if people get offended. I hope people won't get offended me. Try to do an Irish accent. I'm a fifth Irish, so. Anyway, sorry, trying to make it more humorous and positive and upbeat and whatever. But I've been talking to myself and going nuts with my madness and all that kind of thing. But just give my life story away. But, so I was thinking. First off, all I'll say, sorry, welcome to the fourth and final part of Black Mondays, as I called it, and it's almost afternoon on Tuesday now because I'm behind schedule. It took me ages to get out of bed and have my breakfast and that kind of thing. But again, nice life story. But yeah, this is the fourth and final part, and I was talking about what I hope to achieve in the future. But I was talking to myself and imagining myself being in a room with my I think this is my dyslexic or maybe autistic imagination or whatever. Again, I've not been diagnosed with autism, but sometimes I imagine myself being in a certain room or place. And people talked about photographic memory. I didn't think what the term means. I thought it just means people remember pretty much everything and they're really geniuses or whatever. But I think it means you remember things as if you're there, like in a photo, hence photographic. I think that's what it means. And as dyslexic, sort of perceive imagination as reality or whatever. So, and probably the other way around sometimes. So our memories get blurred. Or like, for instance, I have a really poor short-term memory, but probably quite an excellent long-term memory in many cases. I remember things from years ago, but I forget things that happened only very recently. I forget what I had for breakfast or whatever, or even if I had breakfast or whatever. I forget to eat or things like that. But anyway, I was thinking my sympathy. I think there's only one, probably in many ways, one form of sympathy that's any good. I don't know if I should mention this in this video. You probably guess what I'm talking about. If it's free, or if you got paid for it, even better. But in terms of like sympathy, like people say, "Oh, this person's older and they've gone to hospital or whatever." But my sympathy is walk. I'm a bum and I still walk quite a lot. I class myself as a self-confessed bum, lazy bum. But I still walk quite a lot because I think it's up here. It's like when people walk, I think the habit of saying, "Excuse me, I'm older than you," or "Million sympathy, I'm older than you," or "Respect your elders," in my opinion, that makes people lazy bums, which is a bit hypocritical. But even hardworking people, I think, can become really lazy with that habit. So, like I said, my sympathy for someone who's old is please stop saying, "Excuse me, I'm older than you," or "Respect your elders," or whatever. That kind of thing. "Excuse me, I'm older than you," or "Million sympathy, I'm older than you," or "Respect your elders," all that kind of thing. To me, that psychologically is going to make you age quicker. Says a grumpy old git, but it's going to make you age quicker. Probably my diet makes me age quicker, and the fact that I keep getting grumpy about turning 43 now. But yeah, my sympathy, as I say, is walk, or please walk. Anyway, I just want to say that. But yeah, I thought for this one I'll talk about what I hope to achieve in the future in terms of Black empowerment and the empowerment of Native people from across the Americas and neurodivergent people worldwide. So I hope you enjoyed these pointers, number 31 to 40 as per usual. Sometimes I think one day maybe I'll try and mix it up. I do it in reverse order, part 4 all the way to part 1, a bit like when people write a summary at the end, but then put it at the beginning of a business plan or whatever it might be, or a letter or whatever. Anyway, hope I make sense as much as possible, and here goes. So number 31, I dream that of empowered Black people to network together, find ways to get investment, create their own employment, like learn to run businesses, invest together, network together, and whatever. I mean, I suppose some people would argue that business is not for everyone, and investing is not for everyone. And I'm arguing, or talking at least, from the point of ignorance, because base everything on the premise that as someone put it, all I know is I know nothing. But I don't know if I'd agree with that one, but apparently a great mind said, all I know is I know nothing. But base everything on the premise that I could be wrong, basically, is what I was going to say. But and you can always disagree with me as ever as well, including what I said there about older people and like saying I'm older than you, respect yours, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I hope to, going back to the point, I hope to support black people, to encourage them to sort of network together, invest together, that kind of thing. I mean, there's going to be less jobs with AI. There's things that are challenging the global employment market. So there are things like AI, which is going to take more jobs than create. I'm almost 100% certain about that. I'll be shocked if more jobs were created. And there might be a few created, but I think most of them be taken away. Could be wrong again, but yeah, there's AI, there's globalization, which means you're competing with more people. There's booms and busts, which means there's less jobs in the first place. So supply and demand, there's more demand and there's less supply. It's going to make things very difficult. Unfortunately, I regret to say. Some people might say it's an excuse because I don't want to work, but we can agree or disagree again. It's up to you. And then there's migration, some of it legal and some of it illegal. I'm not blaming migrants or whatever, but the situation still is going to be, if 100 people are competing for 101 jobs, one person at least is going to be disappointed. If 100 people are competing for 200 jobs, 50% of people are going to be disappointed. Unfortunately, I regret to say, I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, and now I've seen situations in America especially where DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, has been taken to task. Trump says he's going to sue companies who do that or whatever, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of unemployment and rising unemployment amongst black people, especially women apparently. So creating a business, learning to invest, learning from each other, networking together and creating those opportunities. Maybe that's the only way. I know people might say that's reverse discrimination, I was talking about before, but or positive discrimination, if there is such a thing, or whatever the heck that means. But yeah, to me, I think it's important to create your own employment, create your own opportunities, maybe learn to invest, learn to run business, support each other on social media and things like that, and in STEM and different areas. But it's going to be really hard to compete for those jobs, and only the really highly skilled and hardworking probably are going to get that. I swear word to me. But a part of me thinks like, I read something from an entrepreneur. Funny enough, apparently a fellow dyslexic. I'm not an entrepreneur, unfortunately, but a fellow dyslexic who happens to be an entrepreneur, Peter Jones, who's on the Dragon's Den, which is our equivalent to Shark Tank when it happens out there. Apparently, that was based on a Japanese. I'm thinking of superstition. I bit my tongue. So my mum normally says that's when someone's saying something bad about you. So I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway. They're probably saying get to the point, you butthead. But or might be you out there. But anyway, sorry. But yeah, he was saying like, I think I read it. I don't know if I read it in a book or read it online. I think I read it on an online article about the challenges of employment. And he said, and I suppose he's an employer, so he would know a lot about this. But he says the people they're going to get rid of are the people who do come in late or don't put the effort in. But people who come in early and work really hard and do, again, that's the word again for me. Are going to be the ones they keep, but at the same time, I was thinking, by the way, probably shouldn't care what people think about me or say about me. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I should. I don't know. But at the same time, maybe I should just do what I think is best for myself and others as well. But yeah, at the same time, the people they're going to keep are the people who come early and work hard and whatever. So I think like if you're that hardworking and you're that punctual, that energetic in the morning, you're that able, why not find the funding and learn to invest in it? I think of like reparations and things like that, which I have to come to, but that could help with that sort of stuff maybe. But moving on, number 32, networking together, investing together. Actually, I was going to say about, I was talking about the black community, and I know I went to mix different groups together and talk about like neurodiversity November and that kind of thing as well as I was talking about. And I think with neurodiverse people, similarly, like the fact we think differently, we struggle with interviews, struggle with filling out, knowing what to put in application forms, even just applying, being understood. Some of us might struggle with eye contact or whatever else, etiquette or whatever. So maybe learning AI and things like that would be really beneficial. And again, we're competing in a really difficult job market. I mean, supply and demand is probably the thing that rules our world, our very world. put it, like, well, that's the job market, entrepreneurship, relationships. I don't really do relationships, but if I found a rich sugar mama, I would. But anyway, you could even beat me up. That's what I mean. Anyway, sorry. But yeah, it's going to be more difficult with less jobs going around. But yeah, maybe learning to invest together and things like that would be really beneficial. As they say, rich people have networks. They talk about networks. So a lot of people talk about working hard. Yeah, I know that's a swear word to me, but which is probably very true. I'm not. I imagine. I like to believe there's an easy way to make money or whatever, or easy ways. But and I'd love to learn that and share with other people. But at the same time, it's like a network. I mean, they say your net worth is your network. Your sorry, your, I did the dyslexic version there. Dyslexic way. Your net work is your net worth. Like most people, I was thinking are like employees, or they might think like, say, Tim Bloggs says, oh, I'm tired of working a 9 to 5, so I'm going to set my own business. I feel it's the only way to get ahead. I want to get into business. Maybe I want to make more money, or I feel that my skills are not being appreciated at work, or I'm not being respected at work, or whatever it might be. So they set up their own business, and people say, beware, that's going to be very challenging. It's not as easy. And maybe working together, maybe they can make it easier. Why does it have to be difficult? What are you doing? You're going to get products and sell them to market. You're trying to create things of value, something or some things of value. And if you can learn from each other, like black people mentoring other black people and networking together and putting their money and resources together, and that kind of thing, support each other on social media. Again, similar for Native Americans, same sort of thing, and for neurodivergent people, it means the same sort of thing, networking together, sharing information, knowledge, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, why does it have to be difficult? I guess principally it's quite simple in terms of theory. Obviously, it's different when you put things into practice. But as ever, I love to know what you think. Whether you think I'm being naive or not, or whatever, and struggling to get to the point. But what was I going to say? Sorry. Yeah, learning from each other, investing together, and being part of a team. That's what I was going to say. So many people start a business and they become a sole trader, and people say, don't think too big, and they stay small. Maybe they don't want to think too big or whatever. So you can start small. Obviously, you might start with a job, job, scary thing called a job. Then you expand to something even more scary, like a business, and then you start as a sole trader or a small team of a few people, and then you grow. I mean, you're probably not going to build a Microsoft tomorrow, but why not? If you're part of a black network, they can build networks together globally. In business, again, similar for native people from across the Americas, all over the Americas. It might not be quite as global, but all over the Americas, there might be some people who are Native Americans or native people from the Americas in other parts of the world, other continents like Africa, Asia, Europe, or whatever, but most will be in obviously the Americas. But I think we are hashtag stronger together, and so maybe some Tim Bloggs again is told by his parents. I think most people have an employee mindset. Yeah, it's about mindset, I guess. Again, you can disagree with me if you like, but it's basically, if you want a job done right, do it yourself. But maybe a better way is to find people who are better than you and that you can trust. I know the financial guru, I often think of, like Robert P.O.C says, I'm not the smartest person in the room. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. Quite a few people say that. Some people might see him as a fool, but he's one example. I find what he says quite interesting, although I don't really apply it. But yeah, I wonder if like network together is a good way to go. I mean, there probably will be challenges, like some people might say, well, I don't want to work with people who are not as ambitious or whatever, but you can help them. You can say, oh, this is what it takes, this is how I can push you, you can do it, you can achieve it, or whatever. This is how we can change your life around. But yeah, so Tim Bloggs leaves his job, I'm overcomplicating it perhaps, and becomes a business owner, but he becomes a sole trader. As Robert Kiyosaki says, he owns a job. So if he becomes ill or whatever happens, he or she, obviously Tim Bloggs, I'd assume, would be male, you never know nowadays, but if they become ill or something happens to them, heaven forbid, their business goes to the pot, or they have to go back to work or whatever. If they pass away, then their business goes, well, to be honest with you. But when you're part of a team, it continues even when you're gone or when you're no longer able to work. So you've got other people Doesn't mean you don't have to put work in, but it's a lot of people doing it. But that's my opinion. But moving on, number 33, I'd love for the black diaspora, black people in the West, like in America, Europe, I guess Asia, and Australasia. Not sure if it would work in Africa itself, but or even P.O.C, minorities, maybe even generally. I know I'm talking about on Tuesday, but talking about this sort of stuff on Tuesday, but as it was a Monday, that's supposed to be covering or whatever. I'm a bit behind schedule, but if I would love for them to be tax exempt, and I also think if there's ways there could be tax exemption could be a form of reparations for what happened to black people in history and other P.O.C, racism, discrimination, all that kind of thing. Maybe it could replace DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and could be given to a black business leader. I have to think of this like who can help others. So, for instance, I was thinking in Britain. Just like many countries, including America, we have the minimum wage. But in history, we didn't have the minimum wage, and slaves earned very little, just enough to survive, as far as I'm aware. So imagine if you backdated it and said, actually, if the slaves got paid minimum wage over time, let's say 1 million slaves were taken from Africa by Britain around the world. I think it was 2 or 3 million, at least around the world, if not in Britain itself. And then you took, let's say they were paid about £3 an hour, and now they would be paid about £10 an hour, let's say, or £7 an hour. So let's say it was £4 an hour more. You could take 4 million, 4 times a million, so 4 million or whatever, and not the best amounts, but you take 4 million times the amount of hours they work, so that's per hour, and then you took it to the amount of hours they worked. Let's say they worked 10 hours a day, they didn't get any breaks or anything like that. So that would be about something like 40 million a day or whatever. So if you counted that over even 100 years, it would add up to billions. But also the slave owners got, I think it's $1 billion or even more than that now in compensation. So why can't the black community maybe get $1 billion trust fund, $1 billion pot, say in Britain alone, which could be given to a black community leader who is a good entrepreneur who can help others. I can't think of any name. Well, it could be someone like Dean Forbes, an entrepreneur, and he could reinvest into his own community and mentor other black people. Similar in America, where they were promised 40 acres and a mule, apparently, and there were lots of broken promises, just like there were with Native Americans, with broken treaties. So there could be things like that. Maybe we as P.O.C could lobby for that kind of thing. So I'd love for them to be tax exempt and also to get increased funding and that kind of thing. So like the $1 billion that was given to slave owners could also be given to the descendants of slaves. Again, they could have a community leader that invests in their own community and that kind of thing. I know there's initiatives where banks like NatWest, Barclays and others have been encouraged to invest in a black community. I mean, Barclays apparently were instrumental in apartheid, so maybe they could do something to help South Africa. I often think with South Africa, before I move on to point number 34, in fact, I might say point number 34 on that note, in South Africa, because they went through apartheid, another thing I often think of is like money was taken out in terms of boycotts, like B.D.M.S or something, boycott, divestment and sanctions, BDS or whatever, as some people talk about now with Israel and Palestine, that kind of thing. But money was taken out, but what if there was a campaign to support South Africa because it went through apartheid, and to sort of do the opposite, do it in reverse, so lots of investment could go towards South Africa. And I believe P.O.C should support South Africa. One of the things I think we should do instead of militaries, instead of joining Western militaries, is I think we should try and support South Africa and even lobby for money to be taken out of Western militaries somehow. If I could, I'd take it, divert it from there, if I'm honest. Controversial view, I know, just like many of my views, but and give it to South Africa instead, because they went through apartheid and that kind of thing. And as I say, reparations and that kind of thing, like I talked about the example of like slave owners being given $1 billion and for unpaid work or underpaid work, and then there could be some sort of maths. It might run into the billions or even hundreds of billions. I mean, someone came up with a figure like 18 trillion. I don't know where that came up with that figure, but AI is an opportunity black people could learn, for instance, that could help them to make billions or even trillions in the future. Hopefully ASAP as well. And they can support their communities and that kind of thing. Although I'd love for everyone to have a home, shelter, enough to drink, enough to eat, and all that kind of thing. Ideally, in my ideal world, Michael's ideal world, M.K.S. ideal world, working together as teams, as I talked about, and even like the right to monopolise industries. I'd love for that for the black community and for maybe for Native Americans, Native people from the Americas, which would be quite an irony given where they come from, and also especially for neurodivergent people. I would love for us to be able to monopolise industries and network together. And personally, I'd love to copyright, trademark, protect, and that kind of thing, what I call Illionaires networks, which I'll talk about one day, ASAP. Moving on, number 35, as I say, I'd love to support. I hope that I would have supported in the future ASAP and find the best possible ways to support members of the black diaspora, including obviously in Africa itself, especially South Africa, Central Africa, and places like that, but Africa generally, Nigeria, Cameroon, and the rest of Africa. Symbolically, I'd love for Central Africa to be a hub for all of Africa, all 54 countries in Africa, strategically being the central point of the project and that kind of thing. And when I used to go to a place called the Centre Project, right? But yeah, for the African Union to meet quite a lot there, I think it would be pretty cool to talk about Pan-African events, which will hopefully benefit as many people in Africa as possible. Even working on what I call, which remind me of my idea, M.O.P. or MOP, or M.O.P., whatever you want to call it, micro projects like that. I'd love to go to Africa, especially Central Africa, and talk about those ideas. I'd love for P.O.C., people of colour, to support South Africa, anti-racist and anti-apartheid people to support South Africa, people who support diversity, to support South Africa, maybe even like interracial couples to support South Africa. Given what apartheid means, which is like apartness, being apart from each other, I guess, to support and represent the opposite. But again, I'd love to know what you think about that. But yeah, I love to support black people, their ambitions, Native Americans, and my fellow neurodivergent people around the world as well, of all races and backgrounds. And yeah, sorry, Central Africa would be for like an African Union sort of event. I'd love for that to be all over Africa, but Central Africa to be the main part symbolically because it's right in the centre, which I mentioned before, and the name Central as well. And I'd love for them to learn from Rwanda as a role model to sort of talk about ending tribal and other sort of differences and coming together as Africans. South Africa for P.O.C, people of colour, to network and that kind of thing, and lobby together and look at how we can give our tax money to South Africa as a form of reparations and that kind of thing. That would be pretty cool. And Egypt, because it's the only transcontinental country between Africa and Asia, to be a pivotal point which supports African and Asian alliances, just like looking at what they have in common. But yeah, maybe Pelagians, people who are part black and part Asian, could also go to Egypt, because symbolically it's like where their ancestry is from, part in Africa and part in Asia. Because apparently, as I say, that's the only transcontinental country between Africa and Asia. Number 36. I hope that I can challenge like the football hooliganism and racial prejudice and prejudice generally in Italian football, and improve relations with the black diaspora and P.O.C and that kind of thing, and hopefully that'll benefit Italian football to help them to win. Number 37, same. Celtic already does fight racism, and I hope Celtic can do a lot of projects that help people of different backgrounds, P.O.C, neurodivergent people, and others. Number 38, to network together, as I say, as much as possible, like encouraging the black diaspora to network together as much as possible. Number 39, and it'll be interesting to see what they could achieve. And number 40, probably shouldn't say this one again, but I shouldn't say, but I was thinking like, when I say 30, and 40, I was going to say in point number 36, I think they'll get free sex, free shacks. Fuck's given, free fucks. But anywho, also I was talking about like when I had polo mints, and like thinking about like reminds me of like white holes and like blacked and that kind of thing, interracial where black guys get screwed. Like in Egypt, if I could, I'd make adult movies, porn movies where like black and Asians get screwed white chicks, and also in South Africa, like interracial and all that kind of P.O.C. getting screwed white chicks and all that kind of. I give way too much info. No, I did say at the end of the video, but sometimes I feel like I get a viewer right at the end, like just only hear that part of the video. But yeah, probably not the most professional. I might with the idea, but just being honest, a bit too honest perhaps. But there's something else I was going to say about. The video is already way longer than planned, like 3 times longer than planned. But yeah, like even some of my ideas and fantasies, like about black doctors getting screwed their patients, and like, or nurses, or black patients getting screwed nurses, or whatever nurses. I better wrap this up. I'm out, and peace and love.